Hello, and welcome to the Fall in Love with Teams webinar series. Today's episode, how effective is your team's collaboration? We're here with Kai Kerr from SWOOP to explore how you can drive your team's collaboration to the next level of success with data insights. So many organizations have made the investment in teams, and they're wondering, well, how can I leverage the data and insights available in teams to really identify best practices and to also increase collaboration and use of teams? So with us is Kai Kerr to talk about how SWOOP can help you identify best practices in teams and highly successful collaboration within teams.
Hi everyone, it's Kai here from SWOOP Analytics. Yes, thank you very much, Jesse, for the introduction. Really appreciate it. We're all about helping organizations become faster and better at collaborating. And there's a huge surge in the use of Microsoft Teams around the world. And we want to share with you how you can measure how good your organization has become at collaborating. Now, inside of SWOOP Analytics, Jesse, if you can move to the next slide. Inside of the SWOOP, it comes sort of pre-populated with a whole set of different metrics that I'm going to take you through some of them today and just get a feel for, you can get a feel for what it looks like. The core thing for us is that we think that these analytics should be available to everyone. So every single team inside of Microsoft Teams will have access to their own page where they can see analytics. Also at the organizational level, you can actually zoom out and see what's happening across the entire organization. So if you're implementing Teams to help your organization become better at connecting across organizational boundaries, you can actually see how good you've become at connecting, for instance, people in the East with people in the West and so forth. So I'm going to have the pleasure of taking you through that today. But let me just also tell you about some of the other things that we're doing. Everything we do in SWOOP is backed up by research and evidence, and we're led by our chief scientist, Dr. Lawrence Lockley, in that front. And we just published, which I think is the world's first and largest benchmarking report for Microsoft Teams, which I'll really encourage you to go in and download and have a read of. It really highlights what are the best and worst practices when you roll out Microsoft Teams. But even more importantly than that, it'll actually give you some numbers for what does good look like. So if you've ever wondered what does good look actually, what it looks like in Microsoft Teams, go in and jump onto www.swoopanalytics.com and then find the Microsoft Teams benchmarking report. So today I am going to venture into do this really difficult thing, not difficult, but dangerous thing, which is to demo something live with you today. So if I can be made a presenter, maybe I already am, then I'm going to share my screen with you. So I think that would be the one over here. So with a bit of luck, you should be seeing what SWOOP looks like. So SWOOP basically draws data out of Microsoft Teams. Right now, we are getting messages through the Yammer Graph API for all the channel messages that you'll find inside of a team. But that's very soon going to be expanded into also including chat messages, so we can give you some high-level insights about calls and chat and meetings. But what I'm going to be showing you today is primarily around how people collect and collaborate inside of Teams. You know, when they clicked on that little Teams icon in that rail menu bar on the left, and you invited all your team colleagues in and you are chatting away in channels. That's what I'm going to be showing you today. So once you go into SWOOP, what I'm showing you here is the personal view. And you'll actually see that we are in a separate site. We're not inside of Microsoft Teams. I will show you though, the elements of SWOOP you can access straight inside of Microsoft Teams, but I'm going to give you sort of the big picture view first. So there's a personal page. As I said, we really want to empower individuals with access to data about themselves, how they're collaborating as individuals, but also how your team collaborates, how your business segment, and a business segment is your business unit. It can be kind of like any attribute you have available for your organization. So it could be location, it could be any kind of organizational structure, any attribute about a person. And then the enterprise. So why don't we just go to the enterprise tab first here. Now I should comment on the photo on the top right. I'm not Megan. This is Megan. So we're showing you some demo data here today. So I'm going to be clicking on Enterprise. And you'll see here we're providing some overall sort of top level numbers about how many members there are on this demo site, how many posts, how many replies, how many likes, and how many ad mentions. So this is across the entire organization. So this is the big picture view across the whole organization. This is, of course, particularly useful if you're one of those people that is driving the adoption of Microsoft Teams. You're on the rollout project and you want to get a sense of what does this thing look like across the whole organization. We're sure you're also going to be asked about ROI in Teams, 6 or 3 months after the deployment. So how is it actually working? How many people are using this? And we implemented Microsoft Teams to become better at collaborating. Have we actually become that? Those are the questions we anticipate you'll be asked. So we want to empower you with all the data to provide that answer. So scrolling down a little bit, you can see there are different numbers that come up on the screen here. We'll tell you about how many interactive users you have, and that means how many people are really talking to each other on Microsoft Teams, not just logging on, but they're actually doing something. We also have some very important metrics about what we call, for instance, two-way relationships. Given that Microsoft Teams is a platform where people are supposed to be interacting with each other, I want to see if I'm, for instance, working with Jesse. Am I talking to Jesse? Is Jesse talking to me? Or am I really using Teams as a broadcasting channel where it just goes out one way? So those are some of the things we want to help you measure so you can really report back on whether or not this is being used for proper two-way collaboration. We also know that the ad mention feature is actually a really important aspect of using Microsoft Teams. I'm sure those of you that have already been in there know that you can sometimes miss something, and when you ad mention something, it's much more likely you're going to get a reply than if you don't. And if you compare Microsoft Teams with other social platforms, like for instance Yammer, you'll see that the use of ad mentioning is much stronger. So people really use that to get each other engaged in the conversations, and they don't really click the like button nearly as much as you would do in other platforms. So it's very much about getting work done, getting people, draw them into a conversation, grabbing their attention in the middle of all this activity that will be happening on Teams. And you can even see here this metric I got here, 22% of messages have a question. That's interesting, but just check out the one below. When I ad mention someone, I get 0.9 replies. When I don't ad mention anyone, just look at how much it drops. It needs more than half. So if you want to increase the likelihood of actually getting someone to do something for you, it really is important that you ad mention them. But at the same time, be careful. If you overdo it, it's going to lose its impact. And we've seen organizations where they, whole teams get ad mentioned, or you ad mention your channel, and then you'll quickly see if you don't get this far more replies when you ad mention than when you don't, you're really losing the impact, and you might be doing it. You might be ad mentioning in the wrong way. Jesse started out to talk about how important a team was in terms of getting people to collaborate, and I talked about how important it is. I guess it's a part of the value proposition to ensure that people are collecting or collaborating and connecting across the organizational boundaries. So we want to show you to what extent that's happening, and we show you that in the cross-enterprise collaboration widget that you're seeing here. Can you see here we got all the different business units we have in this demo company down here? So this is kind of a nice matrix, and I can see that marketing have been talking a lot to engineering, but up here, and I can say this, I can make fun of the lawyers here because I used to be one myself many years ago, but those people in legal, they're just not interacting with anyone, just no one in legal, really. There's a little bit happening here between retail and legal, but apart from that, legal is pretty much missing in action. So if you were one of those that's really trying to drive adoption and engagement, you might want to have a chat with the lawyers and say, hey, have we made a strong enough value proposition for Teams with the legal department? I can also change this layout to a map, and you can actually see all those different collaboration patterns, exactly what they look like, kind of in real life. And again, you can see how much legal is sort of not really connecting with the rest of the business. And actually the same with research and development over here. Whereas you can really see how much marketing and engineering are really here driving at the center of all the collaboration patterns. So this is really powerful insight that can help you provide that ROI explanation to management about, well, we implemented Teams. Have we become better at collaborating? Now, a few other things, we know that some organizations are using digital champions to help them roll out Teams. Jess, is that something you're using in Reply as well? How are you using digital champions?
That's a great question, Kai. So leveraging digital champions is one of an essential tactics that you can use for any adoption change management program. It's really great to have a good cross-section of individuals across different business streams, across different locations. So absolutely leveraging champions would be great. And what would be even greater is if we had insight into if those champions are super champions out there helping their peers, if they're actually collaborating as well.
Yeah, so that's exactly the kind of same mindset we took to it. Wouldn't it be nice if we knew these people that we understand many organizations have, even put through 2 or 3 day training programs? Are they actually doing what they, what they're supposed to be doing? So if you see over here in SWOOP, you'll see the teaming champions, which we'll see over here on the right-hand side, and those are people that are using Teams, but they're also participating in many different teams. So you can imagine they're not just active in the champions team, but they've actually spread their wings and are contributing to many different teams. And what I would do if I was on the customer side, I'd say, well, the people that went through the training and the people we nominated, are they really living the dream? Are they doing what we were hoping they'd do? And some of them might a little bit of some extra coaching, and you might actually find also that people you didn't even know about are actually already doing it. So you might already have a fantastic set of champions out there, and it's just a part of sort of formally rolling them into the program. So the teaming champions, we think, is an important component in measuring adoption success. Of course, you also want to find out, we see that in the business segment activity on the left-hand side, which business units have then really adopted Teams. And I know that there are different organizations, they sort of tend to take different approaches, right? Some they go, IT has turned it on and we'll sort of let it grow organically. Other people are rolling out by business unit, and some people they're saying, turn it everything on. Jesse, I'm sure you come across all these different ways that can be rolled out. Is that right?
Absolutely, Kai. When we're creating and developing an adoption change management plan across an organization, we really do look at the culture of the organization and also some of the requirements in the way that people collaborate, including geography, language, business unit, business stream. Sometimes we will roll out to a critical business unit first. Sometimes we will roll out to a resistant group first, so that we can really uncover some and identify items that are going to make our adoption plan more successful. So absolutely, we roll out to various different business units and different geographies and different audiences in a very strategic approach.
Now you'll see the demo data here. We've only got a couple of people in each business unit, so this is obviously not real data, right? But the good to see, like if I was in the adoption program here, you can just see it goes straight up. So obviously this is working very well in our little demo organization. If I scroll down a little bit more, you can also see that I can find out what are the most active teams, which is a nice way to see what are those. Maybe some of those unsung heroes that are already living the dream, that you can go out and talk to and say, hey, it looks like you're using Teams a lot. Can we write up a story about what you're doing? So it's a great way, especially in the early days, to find out who's using it a lot. I also just want to show you a little visualization down here that shows how we can sort of visualize how project teams are connected by having shared members. If we really want to create agile organizations, like really want to create a connected agile organization, we will want to have more than just HR talking to HR within a team for HR people, and and IT people talking to IT people in a team of IT people. So it's really only when we over time start to see the organization really connect and have these cross-functional teams connecting, that we've sort of probably achieved what is for many the true vision for Microsoft Teams. So that's what we want to show you here. We call it the teams of teams visualization, and it's the ability to show what are the teams that come together because they have shared membership. So this is another way of showing how you've connected the company across organizational boundaries. And we know this has been quite a popular way of being able to talk to how much virtual collaboration we really achieved in our organization. Now, these were some of the insights at the enterprise level. You can go in actually, I can go into my little demo organization and I can click on marketing, and you'll see what happens is I now end up on the business segment tab in SWOOP. And you can see now that I'm looking at the same kind of data, but only for the people that are working, in this case, in marketing. So if you're doing one of those business unit by business unit deployments, you can actually go in and see for every business segment, who's who, like how is it being used, what sort of cross-team collaboration is being used, what are the most active teams that have members from that business unit. You can see that as well. So it's a really important way to go back to a head of a business unit and say, well, this is how far we sort of got with the team's adoption in your business unit. And I think there's a lot of people that are working in these rollout programs. If you go into the overall Microsoft Teams admin console, you can get some very high level statistics, or you can go down and say, well, like here's everything for all the people have done, but being able to get this sort of business segment view and find out how many people, where people in this business unit, where have they contributed, what teams have they contributed to, is something I guess that's unique to what we do. So that's the business segment introduction here. And then I want to show you the Teams tab as well. And this is where I'm going to show it first of you in here, so you can see what it looks like inside the SWOOP platform. And then I'm also going to show you the same experience, what that looks like when we see this through inside of Microsoft Teams itself. But the demo data here is kind of like a little bit nice to look at. So I'm just going to show you that for a brief moment. So for every team, you can go in and see, of course, you know how many members there are because you would have invited them as a team lead into your team. I can see how many post replies and likes and mentions we've had in the channels, but I can also see what sort of team we actually have, and being able to, for every team, to see what sort of team type am I, and does that reflect what I was really hoping to achieve for my team? We think is something that's going to transform the way teams measure their own collaboration. We operate with 5 different team types, and I'm just going to show you what those 5 team types are. So these are the 5 different team types we operate with in SWOOP. There's the single leader team and the self-directed team. And these are really the ones where you have, a smaller group of people. The first one would be, Jesse, if you are my project manager, and just as you've so professionally organized this webinar, you're sort of at the middle of everything, right? You're getting people, the presenters to come in, and you're orchestrating the whole thing. So this would probably be like, if we looked at the way that we collaborate around this webinar, you might be this sort of single leader that's orchestrating everything. Out in the real world, and this is not how you actually operate, because we've spoken before about many other things, we actually operate on a day-to-day basis more like a self-directed team, where everyone contributes, everyone is talking to each other. And we think those 2 team types are really important for you to understand what am I and what I want to be. There's a time and place for each one of them. You can look below the line, so there's 3 other team types. The disconnected one is, we don't think that should be very aspirational for most teams. Otherwise, why would you want to set up Microsoft Teams? You could just happily work in SharePoint or email if you don't really want to be a team. And then you have forum and the communities of practice, which is really kind of, you can look at, if you look at the sort of the graphics we use to differentiate them, you can see that the forum and the single leader team sort of look similar, but there's a lot more white dots in the forum, and that really represents that there's a lot of people watching. So imagine if it was you and I, Jesse, having this conversation with all the people that are listening to the webinar. It's actually more like a forum, right? Because it's not just you and I in a little team. It's a lot of people that are watching us and interacting. So this actually is more like a forum. And then the self-directed team, the big brother version of that, or the larger version of that, is a community of practice where you have a core that's really tight connected, but you have a whole bunch of people that are watching. And the reason why we got these 5 is we're now starting to see that Microsoft Teams, in spite of its name, is being used for a lot more than the small teams coming together. It's actually, there's a lot of use cases where people are using it for much larger groupings of people. So we want to show you what you are. Another thing we want to show you is that there's really a risk that what started out as a small team and was only ever meant to be a small team, they tend to grow and grow and grow. Oh, I have to mention a colleague. Oh, I have to invite someone into the team, and you never sort of, they never exit the team again, or someone just is not on the team anymore and they're still not exited the team. So you see this sort of team bloat where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you come in there with 50 people in the team and you really know there's only supposed to be 10 in there, you sort of get, what am I doing in here? Is this a safe place for me to collaborate? So it's really important that we try to make sure that we have the right team size, and we help you with that. So if you want to be a self-directed team and you are actually a forum or community of practice, maybe it's time for you to revisit what that membership list actually looks like. So I'll just show you what the experience inside of Teams. This is the same experience. You can see I've got my my SWOOP Analytics team. I've got a whole pile of channels in here. I'm on the General tab, and all I've done is that there's a SWOOP Analytics tab that I'm in here. You can get that by clicking the little plus icon, and then you can see there's actually there's a SWOOP app in here. You'll only see one. I've got a couple because we set it up so there's some trial instances of this running, but you should only see one, and you can either find it there, or you could just search for SWOOP up here. If you are everyone can find this because we're in the App Store, but when you click to install it, this will only work if you have an enterprise-wide license to SWOOP Analytics. Otherwise, you will not be able to really connect to it properly. But you can see here, I can click on it and I have the same experience as I would have. I'm in the SWOOP team, I'm on the team tab, so I get everything that I would otherwise have seen. So it's a really neat way of bringing the data right into the Teams client. Okay, the last thing I'll show you today is, and I'll just pop out of this again, is the personal tab. So as I mentioned, early on, it's important for us to provide insights at all levels of the organization, from the enterprise through to the business segment, the team, and all the way down the individual level. And we do that because we really want to empower you to become better at collaborating. We think we can do that better if we help you understand the collaborative behaviors that you have. So one of the key ways we're doing that, we have, for instance, our SWOOP persona, which we're seeing over on the left-hand side. The SWOOP persona, it's a kind of the same as what we saw with the team persona, but this is not for the team and how the team operates, but how you operate. So they're again a set of different personas, and they range for. In this case, I'm a responder, and you can actually see that there's a lot more coming from me than what I'm getting back. So I'm really someone who is contributing a lot to this team. My colleagues are not really that good at contributing back to me. So there could be all sorts of reasons for that. It could be that my role is to make sure that everyone has got what they need on this team. And you can see that I'm doing a lot of replies. I'm also good at posting, but other people, I don't get that many replies back. So we classify that as responder. Someone is really good at responding to others. We have some different other team types, some other SWOOP personas at the individual level. So a broadcaster, someone that just push out information to everyone, and there's a time and place for that. But I certainly wouldn't want to have all your team members to be people that just post, and they never reply, they never mention anyone, they just blast out information. So you can see we can have use of Teams that is good for collaborative behaviors, and then behavior that's kind of more broadcasting, which is what we really don't think was the intention behind Teams. But at the end of the day, it's up to those of you that are using Teams to find out what persona do you really think that you should be yourself that contributes the best to the team. We have a responder, we have a catalyst, which is someone that is really starting a lot of conversations, and we have the engager, which is someone that managed to balance what they do and what they get back. And I would suggest to you, in most situations, if you are a responder, a catalyst, or an engager, then I'd say that would probably be the best personas for most people. While there are always exceptions, I would say that those are probably the best ones. So that's just a little bit of a sort of a snippet of what you can find in the SWOOP interface. As I said, it's really meant to be self-serve for all. The costing model for SWOOP is that's a one fee for the entire organization, and once you pay that, there's no installation, no setup, no single user licenses. It's open for everyone to access the analytics at the personal level. All teams can access their own team insights. So if you have a private team, that's just for you. If you're a member of a public team, well, like anyone can see it. You can go in and SWOOP and everyone can see the insights for that team as well. So we mirror the access controls that you would otherwise find inside of Microsoft Teams. We have colleagues in SWOOP Analytics around the world. With me today in the webinar is Coco Molina. Say hello, Coco.
Hello, everyone. My name is Coco Molina, and I am Director of North America. Part of my role is to nourish and develop the relationships between our partners and our customers. And so if you are interested in seeing what SWOOP is like in this area, then I would be your contact person.
Excellent. Thank you, Coco. So we have Coco on the West Coast. We have Luke on the East Coast, based just north of New York. We have Nick in London, and then myself and Emily O'Brien is here in Sydney, Australia. So if you want to talk to any one of us, just reach out, and I'm sure that the wonderful friends from Reply can put you in contact with us.
Thank you so much, Kai. What a great webinar. I can see so many ways that this would be really valuable to organizations and helping them understand how they're collaborating, but also identify areas where collaboration may need a little bit of help, such as a webinar, some training or communications, but also I can see it really turning into some excellent success stories, especially with those teams that are really collaborating, not only within the team, but also with other teams as well. So thank you so much for this informative webinar. For those of you on the webinar, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. WM Reply would love to hear about any adoption projects you have going on or intranets. And of course, SWOOP has excellent services that you can explore anytime.